Hello and welcome to More Than a Game, a podcast about the Premier League, A-League and more. My name's Tommie C, and this week on the pod, return of the away win in the Prem as Villa and Liverpool are the only teams of 7 hosts to get a win in the past 24 hours. Buzzing Brentford sting Wolves to climb up to 9th. On and off the field, shithousery in the Championship. Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi both hit speed bumps in their first Champions League outings for new clubs. And Jimmy Greaves, the legend of English football, passes away today. My name's Tommie C, and joining me is George from Shores Afar. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good to be back. Sunny London this week, so it's been nice and lots of football as well. So,
mate, it's been sunny for a whole week in London. I don't know if me or any of the listeners actually believe that.
It has. I've been drinking beers the whole week, mate. So you got to make the most of it.
Good.
The dying embers of summer.
Hey, mate, all right. But look, before we get into own goal moment of the week, I do have a question for you. I believe the Brownlow's on tonight. I just wanted to know who's your pick for the Brownlow winner.
Well, I think it's going to be someone from the D's, I reckon, with the most wins. So maybe Clayton Oliver. But again, I didn't watch every game this season due to the time difference. So.
Is it hard to get a hold of over there, or it's pretty?
No, and
on YouTube or something.
There's 1 or 2 games a week that are on at like 10 in the morning. So if you time your work run well, working from home, you can have them on. You can have them on a Friday morning. So
very nice. All right, mate. Time to talk about some real football though. So why don't you take it away, George? What was your moment of the week?
My moment of the week this week was from the Villa Everton game, actually, Tommie, and it was the cameo from the man of the match, Leon Bailey. So I don't know whether you saw it, but he came on in the second half, got a goal, an assist, and injured himself all in the space of 21 minutes. So and then Sky Sports, I think, gave him man of the match. So it was just pretty incredible, and it was a classic Leon Bailey game. So Villa signed him this summer from Leverkusen for about 30 million, and he's known as a bit of a speedster with a bit of a lack of end product and inconsistency and always getting injured, and he pretty much did that in his cameo, and it was pretty impressive. 20, and the camera panned to him, and they said he was man of the match. So he scored a nice goal though, and fair play to him, and hopefully he gets his body right, because he's pretty exciting. He's like probably a better version of Adama Traore.
Well, I was just going to say that, right? Like, because in overnight we did see sort of like the best and worst of Adama Traore and Leon Bailey. So, mate, I just hope for Villa that he can keep turning on performances like that over longer than just 30 minutes.
21, Tommie, 21 minutes. So even more condensed for people with shorter attention spans like myself.
Oh, so. Fantastic. He's like a real player for like the TikTok era, right? Like just comes in and does like a 60-second cameo and then he goes off injured.
Yeah, pretty much. Perfect.
All right. So look, it was a pretty another eventful week in the world of football. So I've got a couple, and given it's only George and I thought, I'll indulge myself and have a few. So with FIFA 22 coming out, we've got a lot of A-League kits coming out at the moment. Nothing particular on that topic, but just that it's fantastic and really exciting to see the kits come out, because it means that new season isn't too far away. So I've really enjoyed that, and a couple of good kits, a couple of okay kits. And I think the Victory kit was probably the one kit that I went, oh geez, that's pretty ordinary.
Is that with the gold stripe thing on the
There is a little bit gold trim.
Trim.
Is it gold? I think it might even be like fluoro yellow.
Fluoro yellow.
It's more the fact that this is Victory's first non-Adidas kit, and particularly they've gone with Macron, and like it's the quality of, or at least of the branding is just not quite as strong as it previously was with Adidas. What else? The Socceroos have bounced up to 32nd in the world in the FIFA rankings. I know not everyone pays a lot of attention to them, but still it does impact us when it comes to World Cup draws in a couple of years. So fingers crossed that we maintain a high ranking.
Couple of years, Tommie, next year, mate. You've forgotten what year it is.
I've got no fucking idea.
Less than 18 months, nearly a year. It's only 1 year away, mate.
Well, you're right. I think we're probably only about 6 months away from them doing the group stage draw. So
Yeah.
You're right. It is actually sooner than what I realised. But look, I can't go past a bit of shithousery from the championship as far as my moment of the week goes, and that was Henry Lansbury's tackle on Ryan Manning in Luton Town's 3-3 draw with Swansea. Probably a lot of people might have seen this on social media today, but I mean, this was next level. I think you saw it, didn't you, George?
Yeah.
Okay. So for people who haven't seen it, I'll sort of walk them through it a little bit. So Lansbury's he's won a free kick and he's just about to take the free kick, and Ryan Manning just steps in front of him. And I don't think there's really plausible deniability with this, but Lansbury just absolutely clatters Ryan Manning as he's sort of pretending or sort of intimating that he's going to kick the ball, and just absolutely belted him. And what it reminded me of is, when like you're more of an outdoor thing than an indoor thing, but when someone sort of like sits on the ball, and I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if someone does that, you just like it's free license just to go to town on, right? And this felt like those sort of vibes, but like at an elite level. And I mean, the fact that the guy only got a yellow card out of it was pretty amazing, because really he did. He absolutely just belted the shit out of this dude's legs. And like the guy looked like he was in quite a bit of pain, legitimately as well. But Manning also got a yellow card.
Very Sunday League areas. Tommie, very Sunday League areas.
Look, it could have quite easily been an own goal as well for either party, but still, it was wild. You don't see stuff like that happening very often at like elite level of football. George, what about you, mate? What was your own goal for this week?
Oh, I'm going an easy one, and it's in response to all the media and all the football just getting behind Man U after Ronaldo's debut, and they're going to win the Premier League and win the Champions League, and they go away to young boys and get absolutely get done by the team. So it's quite funny how the swings and roundabouts of football, but it's definitely an own goal to be leading. And Ronaldo, to his credit, Ronaldo did score the opener, and then obviously Wan-Bissaka got sent off. But they still, like, for a team that was everyone was patting him on the back, they finally figured it out. They've got the winning formula. Like literally 3 days later, that they lose, and everyone's back on. Ollie doesn't know what he's doing, and tactics and stuff like that, which I'm in the camp of. So I just thought it was funny that Ronaldo makes his debut, everyone's going nuts, scores two pretty, one tap in and one was decent, but like Man U was changed, and Ollie's finally got it right, and then 3 days later in the Champions League, a tiny bit of adversity and they implode. So
we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail when we get down to Champions League a little bit later in the show. But I can definitely appreciate that, mate. I think there really is. There's only two kinds of people in the world at the moment, and those that are like just happy that Cristiano Ronaldo's back in the Premier League, and then there's other people that just want Man United even more to fail than they maybe normally would.
Yeah, got the hand up there for those playing at home.
Yeah. Alrighty, as far as own goals go for me this week, where am I? So I had two again. I'm going to indulge myself. First one is the FFA Cup. That was obviously screened this week on 10 Play, the on-demand streaming service that Channel 10's got out at the moment, the free one, as opposed to the paid one, which is Paramount Plus, which is a little bit confusing. But the own goal was that the FFA Cup match between Brisbane Roar and Peninsula Power didn't actually start streaming until 10 minutes into the game. So everyone knows that the game has started. On Twitter and on all the socials and Google, it says, the game has started. And there wasn't anything on the screen until other than just some shiny logos for about the first 10 minutes, which it wasn't a great start, even if it was an FFA Cup game, but still worthy of an own goal here, or more than a game at least. And the other one was that some people may or may not be tracking that the Derby have got some issues at the moment financially. And it's looking like they're going to be going into administration, which will mean that they're going to cop 2 points deductions as a result of their situation. One for financial fair play, issues that they've got at the moment, and also going into administration. So I think they're likely to cop in total a 21-point penalty, which will pretty much almost certainly relegate them. Not only will it relegate them, but it also sort of takes away some of the drama of the championship with other teams. Like there's only really two relegation slots up for grabs as a result. But also, I just want to remind everyone that I know, George, I know you've got a bit of a conflict of interest as far as this goes, but just want to remind everyone that remember the teams that were involved in the Super League. There was no points penalties attached with their penalties because it was said that it would hurt the fans. Now, I do feel a little bit for Derby's fans in this situation because through no fault of the fans or the players, they're likely to get relegated, even if they do have like a decent season. So pretty rough situation, I guess, for the fans and the players of poor Derby.
Think about poor Wayne Rooney, Tommy. He found out on TV that they were going into administration. So
it's just the icing on the cake, wasn't it?
They've had administrative problems. That just the way the club's been run for a fair few since basically they made that run in the championship with Lampard coaching. So
it's all Lampard's fault, basically.
No. I mean, the year he left, it fell apart, Tommy. So, but I think.
But that was on the pitch, right? Because Phil Cocu came in, and then he got sacked, and then Rooney took over as manager, even though he was playing there. I saw like this great. It was almost like Central Coast Mariners-esque, sort of the decline where like they hit this like high point, and then everything just tailed off really, really quick. And then like now they're going into administration, and they're obviously going to drop down a division next season. And you just don't know how deep this can go. So,
well, hopefully they get Usain Bolt in for a trial next season. So here he's still a free agent.
Yeah, still plenty of time for them to keep dropping down, I guess. And who knows how low they'll go. But alrighty, so that's our own goal and moment of the week. So next up, we're going to talk some Premier League. So, look, first up, before we get into any of the matches, I did just want to make a little bit of a reference to the fact that sort of with this season, we've seen fans back in stadiums, and we've obviously seen the return of home advantage. But this week, it seemed like home advantage seemed to evaporate a little bit. And by that, I mean, so there's been 7 games played this round. And look, this could just be a statistical anomaly at this point. And obviously, it was always bound to happen anyway. But of the 7 games so far, there's only been 2 home wins. There were 3 away wins and 2 draws. So, look, George, I'll throw a question straight out, sort of a bit of a broad general one. But do you think that home advantage is sort of dried up a little bit? Do you think fans maybe aren't quite singing quite as loud as maybe they were in week 1?
Well, I don't know about that, Tommy. I think if you actually have a look at the teams who lost at home this week, they're all pretty shit. So I think that's my answer. I think the teams who lost have been pretty poor. So
teams that lost this week were Wolves lost at home, Norwich lost at home, who've also been awful. Burnley lost at home, and that's it. So, look, I do wonder if might have seen slightly different results in these games had they been played, say,
without fans
a few weeks ago. Yeah. So, or they were round 1 fixtures where fans were back in the stadium. So,
well, I don't know. I don't know if I mentioned on the pod. I don't think I was on, but I went to the Arsenal-Chelsea game. I think it was the second game of the season, and the Arsenal fans are pretty quiet after 20 minutes there. So just thought I'd throw that in.
But Arsenal have always, even in the hybrid days, always had a reputation for being like a quiet stadium, right? Like
it was
Highbury the library, right?
Highbury Library. Yeah, no, the credit to the actual atmosphere. The first 20 minutes, it was their first home game of the season, so they were going nuts at the start. It was pretty good, but then
and then by 5 minutes in, after they saw how terrible their team was,
yeah.
All right, into our first game though, and that's Wolves hosting Brentford. So as we said just a few minutes earlier, Brentford, they end up taking out a 2-0 win here against Wolves. Really solid performance from Brentford, who scored 2 goals. First one through a penalty, which Ivan Toney converted.
I like the penalty. Very cool finish. I like the he sort of he kind of walked up to it and just whacked it in the corner there. It was
like a proper
cool
penalty, right?
Yeah,
Like he didn't faff about. There was no stepping or hopping or anything like that. Just belted it. But it was clinical still, though, right? Like he looked like he'd sort of picked a spot and still was reading the goalkeeper a little bit. So I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I mean, and he looks like a Premier League striker. Like he's not one of those guys that did well in the Championship and is going to struggle at Premier League level. Like he looks like the real deal. So,
but that was even only his first year in the Championship, I believe.
Yeah. So they picked him up as a replacement for Watkins, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's had a bit of a meteoric rise.
Meteoric rise, yeah.
It's been a long weekend. A meteoric rise. So, like you say, the fact that he's performing so well so quickly in the Premier League it reflects really, really well upon him, I guess, as an individual and as a player, that he doesn't seem overawed by the occasion. So,
and the Brentford Moneyball system, Tommy, got to get that in. Got to get it in.
Yeah, mate. So, look, I think it's probably at this point that I need to throw out Damo's question. So, Damo, obviously, one of our own here at MTAG, he asks, are Brentford / Thomas Frank the example of how a promoted team needs to tackle their first season in the Prem when aiming for longevity?
Yeah, I think it's the way they play is for lack of a better word, like a sustainable way in the Premier League. They're not doing the Norwich or the Fulham, or even before that Blackpool, who just we're going to go all out attack, and that might work sometimes in the Championship, and it might be effective. Score lots of goals, and but you're playing against better opposition, and I think the model is firm up at the back, play your system, and try and play to your strengths, and obviously the Brentford seems to be getting wins, collecting points, and I think who was it in one of our group chats? Tommy said they were tipping Brentford to finish above Leeds. So
I think that might have been Damo as well.
It might have been Damo as well. So and I'm sort of leaning towards that. I think Leeds have probably got a better team definitely got a better team on paper, and it just seems like they're not picking up the points they were last year, and they're still people have figured them out almost. So.
Did you say Wolves or Leeds?
Leeds.
Yeah, right. And I guess like you often say that's a bit of a struggle. Like we saw that with Sheffield United last season, that they had a really strong core of a team, and then they replaced a few players. Some were sold, some moved on, some were replaced, and then you've got to then re-establish that dynamic, and that can be a real challenge when you've got new players coming in and the like. So tricky situation, I guess, for Leeds. But Brentford, they're doing the business at the moment, picking up points, and that's really what they need to be doing. But look, Brentford obviously had a really strong performance. But if there's one thing I do want to mention about Wolves, and that they were pretty horrible in this, and not just some of their play was a bit average, but I also thought just like their attitude and mentality seemed to be all over the place, like. Neves, the Portuguese midfielder, his head seemed to be gone by about quarter of the way through the game. I think he got booked, and then he was all over the place. And then obviously as you mentioned earlier about Traore, this was Traore's one of his bad days. Where I've got some stats for you and the listeners, George.
Beautiful
about Traore's performance. He had those that have seen the highlights would have seen that he had a couple of really good chances where he sort of broke through the Brentford defence, which he often has those sorts of chances.
Yeah, a game, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. And he did. He had two shots on two shots, both of them off target. But he also had 11 dribbles, which that's probably not a huge surprise that he had heaps of dribbles. Had 11 crosses. And of those 11 crosses, only two were accurate and found a target. So really, really disappointing that it just felt like he was putting cross after cross after cross in the second half. And it must have been so frustrating for someone like Jimenez, and just to be not be found by a player who's meant to be quite a good crosser.
Yeah, I mean, it's all happening here, Tommy, don't worry. Jimenez has started slowly, and it's understandable. And I don't think, to be fair, Wolves have not been playing that bad. Like, they've not been playing that bad. and up until today, they just haven't been putting away their chances, and it just hasn't been working going forward. But the style Bruno Lage has been implementing, it is working to an extent because they're playing good football. It's just there's no end product, and I don't know whether that's down to Neto being out or Podence hasn't been playing either, and Jimenez, as I mentioned, with the slow start. So they're just and it might all change when the goals start flying, because it could just be one of those things. And that's kind of how I felt the game went yesterday. Like, I think if they'd gotten a goal early or they'd actually scored, then maybe that things would have been a little bit different, because the longer the game went on without them scoring and then Brentford scoring, heads just dropped. And like you said, it just looked like they were going to lose because of that. And I was confident Brentford were going to get another one. And the Brentford goals were pretty easy in the end, the penalty and then the finish at the back post for the second. So
100%. But I tell you what, so Shendon Baptiste, the Grenadan midfielder playing for Brentford, I think he must have felt left out from our Antonio and Tanganga stupid red card chat from last week, because I tell you what, he was an absolute pork chop in this one, getting sent off for 2 yellow cards in close succession in a 5-minute space.
That was dumb. That was just genuinely dumb.
Like, the second yellow card was just like a proper, genuine rugby tackle, right? Like not just like a shirt pull. It was just like, I'm just going to pull him down to the ground.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Mate, yeah. But the other thing that sort of stuck out a little bit to me with this game was that Nuno always seemed like a really settled presence on the bench, and Bruno Lage, he's at first, in the first like sort of 1 or 2 games that I've seen of Wolves, he seemed relaxed, but in this game he didn't seem relaxed. He seemed sort of bent out of shape, and I think to me it seemed like sometimes you can see a team sort of attitude can be influenced by their manager, and in this one, all the players looked just a bit bent out of shape, and it was.
I think they're unraveling, Tommy.
Well,
after 7 games, that's a big call. Yeah. That's a big call.
I don't know. I don't think they are, but I guess I see some worrying signs there for Wolves, and I think everyone is sort of expecting that they're about to turn a corner. Everything will start to click. They'll start scoring goals. And I mean, like, they're not conceding a lot of goals, so that always bodes well. But still, it's worrying times, I think, for Wolves, because we've seen in the last couple of years that you can have a really good season in the Premier League, and if you don't turn up consistently, it can all unravel, and you can find yourself in a relegation scrap. So Wolves really got to, I guess, try and turn this around quickly. Otherwise, they could find themselves in a pretty nasty situation, I guess.
Yeah, I just on that, and I agree. I agree that the longer it goes on, Tommy, they've basically, what are their goals for? Actually, let me just have a quick look.
I think they've only scored 2 goals.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to change. I would say I think there are plenty worse teams in the Premier League. So and they've got quite, if you have a look at their squad, it's pretty deep in key areas. It's just players aren't playing well enough. So I think
a lot of players out of form right now.
Yeah, so I would back them to be okay, but I don't see them, if this continues, I don't see them being in the top 10 or the top half. So, and that's disappointing for what they've spent and where they're trying to be.
100%. But look, onto Norwich hosting more than a game's own Watford, 2 promotees that went head to head this week. Norwich hosted them at Carrow Road, but they were one of the teams that ended up hosting a game and were unsuccessful with a result, though. So Emmanuel Dennis, he opened the scoring for Watford with a beautiful header from
nice header, yeah,
from a Kiko Firmino cross. Timo Pukki equalised, though, after being played through by Matthias Norman. But then about the 60-minute mark, Ismail Assar, he gave Watford the lead, and then later on he doubled his goal tally for the game, getting his second and Watford's third after VAR, and the Norwich defence combined to give Watford their third goal and all 3 points. So this was all shades of Norwich. Norwich's defending from, 2 years ago,
and with a Pookie goal as well. So it's pretty standard formula for Norwich. So yeah,
I know. And look, I don't want to shit on Norwich already, but I struggle to see them even being competitive. Like if they're not going to show up and put in a shift against Watford, when like they have to win these games. These are a must-win game, right?
That was a cliche 6-pointer, because I don't think Watford are that good either. But
already it's a 6-pointer, and if they're like they were pretty poor, I thought, and like the goals that they gave away as well. I mean, that third goal, like you're still in the game and you're giving that away, which they did. They pretty much gave the game away when they were still in with a sniff. Was just real rookie areas. At this point, they're the only team in the top 4 divisions in England without a point. And only there are 4 teams in the top 5 leagues across Europe that haven't got any points either. They're Getafe, Alaves, Verona, and Salernitana in Italy.
That is a stat, Tommy. That is a stat.
Man, I've done some trawling through all the league tables.
Absolute this afternoon. That's just Damo would be very proud of that.
But yeah, look, pretty scary times, I think, for Norwich fans. And look, I think we're not quite at the point where people are starting to think, oh yeah, can't wait until it rolls around when sort of my premium FPL asset is going to be playing Norwich so that I can triple captain them. But yeah, we can't be far off that, I reckon. So
what are they? So goals against, Tommy, 14 already for Norwich. That's pretty.
That's so different to the approach that the Brentford have taken, right? Where it's like, okay, not always going to score a lot of goals, but we're going to be defensively solid in every game. And so far they have, and it's been really successful for them. So,
yeah.
Next up, Liverpool. They hosted Crystal Palace. They were one of the few teams that did actually win at home. A goal apiece for Salah, Mane, and Keita gave Liverpool a comfortable home win, where the scoreline was probably pretty reflective of the game, I thought.
Can I just come in here and just express my frustration at Patrick Vieira and not? I mean, I've brought Edouard into my fantasy Premier League team. He scored 2 with 2 out of basically 2 touches last week, coming off the bench. Surely you're going to play him. Like it defies all logic.
He had a chance though late in the game, didn't he? And he made a bit of a hash of it.
Doesn't matter, Tommy. You got to. It's called. You've played enough Football Manager. If a guy scores 2 off the bench, you start him the next week. How about the confidence killer? Bloody hell! Yeah,
it was a bit rough. I felt as well, and especially like maybe I could understand if it was what's his name, Mateta. Maybe I could understand if he was getting a start, but starting Benteke, like Benteke, we know is no good. He does bring certain things to the team.
Unless it was a tactical thing and blah blah blah. But gee whiz, like as I don't know, that doesn't sit well for me, Tommy. Does not sit well for me.
Yeah, Mane got his 100th Premier League goal in this game as well, which kind of surprised me a little bit. I didn't realise he'd scored that many goals, but like he's still been in the Premier League for quite a while. But good for him. The win sent Liverpool top, albeit maybe temporarily until Man United and Chelsea play later tonight. And George, I wanted to have one final question before we move on, and that's Liverpool have kind of gone under the radar a little bit so far this season. I think everyone's sort of still looking at Cristiano Ronaldo and Lukaku, Chelsea, City, and what all of those teams are doing. But specifically you, George, you had Liverpool finishing 5th. You think you might revise that prediction a little bit, or?
I'm starting to get a bit nervous about that one, Tommy. Yeah, so I think I was basing it off. I was buying into that narrative where you didn't know what sort of Liverpool you were going to get, and maybe they were slightly past it. But I think I was possibly wrong with that call. And if Salah's playing like he's playing, he's basically 2 goals a game, and Van Dijk's back and Alisson's making some big saves for them as well. I don't think they're as good defensively. I would say that, and I don't think the midfield is quite humming. But Salah's just getting them out of trouble with his just ridiculous goal scoring record. And you saw this when they played a better team, which we'll talk about later in the Champions League. They went 2-1 down to AC Milan. They were playing great, but so I think that you can still get at them. And I think I think other teams have better defence. Let me just say that. So.
Just before we move on, you mentioned about the Liverpool defence, and it was a heavily rotated Liverpool defence in this game. Milner played at right back, Tsimikas, he started on the left, and Konate, he lined up alongside Virgil van Dijk. So
he's a big unit, actually. I didn't realise how big he was. He's a large man.
Okay, fair enough. All right, moving on though. Next up was Manchester City hosting Southampton. City unable to break down the South Coast team after it appeared as though City had used up all of their goals midweek in the Champions League after they scored 6 against RB Leipzig. So pretty disappointing result for City, but look, Pep was pretty upbeat about this one, saying that Southampton, they do have one of the best midfielders in the Premier League in Romeo, which seemed to catch a few people off guard. I mean, I'm not sure if most people would consider Romeo to be one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, but look, Pep also does have form for talking up Romeo as well. I went searching for
deep dive, Tommy.
Oh, it was another deep dive. Yeah, I went looking for the quote from this, or like a video clip of it. And as it turned out, he said pretty much exactly the same thing in December 2020 about Romeo. So he must just really love the man. He's just another big man that Pep likes. So
there you go. There you go. Go on, Tommy.
No, as it turned out with this one, City were probably lucky not to have conceded late on as well. Walker, I can't remember who it was, but Walker was in with a shout for having fouled I think it was Armstrong. It's probably a pretty easy one because there's multiple Armstrongs, but I think it was Adam Armstrong that Walker was adjudged to have fouled and brought down, and then was possibly going to get sent off as well. But VAR brought it back and said that no, it wasn't a foul, wasn't a penalty, and Walker ended up finishing off the game on the pitch. So I guess City's still in a little bit of an early season funk, sort of similar to last season. But I think a lot of people are just expecting that this will they'll flick a switch and sort of the machine will fire up and City will sort of come alive once again. But Mansmith on Twitter, he wants to know, do you think Pep will lose interest before the end of this season at City?
Well, interestingly, he did sort of call, because they had a bit of a low attendance at the Champions League game, didn't they? So he was calling on the fans to sort of come back in their numbers to help sort of if there are any to get them over the line a little bit more and to fire them up a bit for games against Southampton and those. So I think that's a real possibility. You know, if who would have thought a 0-0 against Southampton? Like, I know it comes off a Champions League week, but yeah, it's a pretty similar squad as well. So motivation might be something that could be a factor, but I don't think that'll be the case, and they'll fire up. They usually do start slow, as you said, Tommy, and they did put in 6 on against Leipzig. So yeah, I don't think they've got huge problems there.
Fair enough. All right, next up, Aston Villa. They hosted Aston Villa hosted Everton, I should say. And throughout this week, I was talking with Mace Caruana, who's a regular listener and an FPL player. I was talking with him about Everton's form this season and why they've been so good. So, look, here's something that Mace sent us this week about Everton's form.
I think one of those main reasons is the belief and the mentality that surprisingly Rafa has instilled in the players. I think he's given them something to work towards and put a lot of responsibility on them, as well as being a little bit more tactically hands-on, rather than the assumption with Ancelotti was he let a lot of players do their own work. The other reason I think, interestingly, is Gray and Townsend have given a lot of competition to Iwobi and Richarlison, and I think those two players, Iwobi and Richarlison, are really fighting a lot harder, and Gray and Townsend have hit the ground running. 3 in 3 for Gray. He's only had 3 shots, so let's see if he can keep those numbers up, and that leaves Alan and Doucouré to do a lot of the work that they're meant to do. I know they were injured for a lot of times last season, but they're now able to roam a little bit more freely without having to do the attacking work that, those other wingers and DCL can do up front.
Thanks for that, Mace. So I did have to laugh that I was speaking to an Everton fan. I sought him out during the week to talk about Everton's good form, and then they absolutely pissed all over me. So with putting in a pretty average performance. But I think there is a big caveat that goes along with this one. Everton were missing Jordan Pickford, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, and also Seamus Coleman as well. So they did get absolutely battered through absentees, and I think when you consider those sort of four key absentees, particularly Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, once they were missing, it was almost felt like it was inevitable that they probably weren't going to get maybe the same result, even though they've been getting some good results recently. George, what did you make of this performance from Everton?
Well, it wasn't like I think it's a fair point to say that they were a little bit toothless up front, and you could kind of see that. Although Rondon sort of had a couple of half chances, or he nearly slipped one in on the back post and scored. So like Rondon looks okay, but he doesn't look 100% fit. That was my observation. I'm like, you could see him doing some good things, and he sort of plays a little bit similar to Calvert-Lewin in that mold. Not as quick, obviously, but holds the ball up. Very dangerous.
Got a very good touch for a big man.
Very good touch for a big man. He's a bigger man than Calvert-Lewin, I would say, as well. But so they kind of just didn't look like it was all sort of humming, attacking wise. And Gray kind of sort of did his thing, ran hard, and sort of tried to get balls in and the like, as well as Townsend, but it just wasn't quite clicking. And you just thought Villa looked a lot more dangerous. And Cash, who scored the first goal, just basically seemed like he had a paddock to charge down that right side. I don't know if it was, Digne or the midfielder's issue, but like the commentator said he had a few chances early on, and so did McGinn. And he said sort of Cash hadn't scored in, since he'd basically come to Villa effectively. So maybe it was at home since he joined Villa, and he had a few chances and then he got his goal. So, and you could see it coming. And Villa just looked too threatening going forward. They just had too many weapons, and the pressure kind of told on Everton in the end.
In this game, I think we saw sort of finally some of those new new Villa players click into gear as well. Like we mentioned Leon Bailey at the top, but Matty Cash, he's obviously only been there for a bit over 12 months as well, and he's probably one of his best performances as well. Like after being one of the best players in the Championship prior to joining the Premier League, so good signs, I guess, that things are starting to click there a little bit. But we'll see how that pans out. After a slow start, Villa do still have a pretty rough run of games coming up. They play Man United, Spurs, Wolves, Arsenal, and then West Ham in their next 5 games. So still plenty of hard work ahead for Villa in the next month or so to figure out sort of where they're going to actually finish up. Sort of by Christmas time.
Yeah, and I would say as well, like I I hadn't seen Ramsey in Villa's midfield before, and he looked really, really good as well. Like a really good player, good touch, good vision. And I'm just flicking through Villa's bench, and it's actually like pretty solid. So you had Buendia on the bench, Bertrand Traore, Ashley Young, marvelous Nakamba. I don't think he's that good, but you had El Ghazi, Leon Bailey as well. So it's a pretty strong squad if you sort of take a look at what they're offering. So I think Villa, if they keep going, they're going to be pushing in that sort of top 10, Europa League, that sort of region, I think.
Fair enough. Still another couple more games that we are going to cover in a little less detail. Burnley, they hosted Arsenal. Arsenal got their second win of the season at Turf Moor this time around. Arsenal were beaten on XG, but it was Martin Odegaard's gorgeous free kick that proved the difference between the two teams, giving Arsenal just the 1-0 win. But they'll take anything at this point.
That they will, and they did.
Newcastle, they hosted Leeds on Saturday morning, Australian time, Friday night, UK time. Leeds absolutely battered Newcastle. But the points were shared as Leeds could only find the solitary goal before Newcastle equalised through Alan Saint-Maximin or Alan Sangucci. I think he is on this podcast now. But look, decent point for Newcastle. And I tell you what, I reckon they're going to get plenty more points sort of similar to that this season.
If St. Maximin stays fit, then yeah. And I think Leeds, basically, to win a game, need to score needs to score 2 or more because they're going to concede.
Grim. Or just get really lucky.
Yeah.
All right, still 3 matches to be played this game week. First up, Brighton are going to be hosting Leicester City. Brighton in solid form this season so far, 3 wins and 1 loss, although they have beaten Burnley, Watford and Brentford, and they lost to Everton. So, yeah, it's not a little bit tricky to tell if Brighton are the real deal just yet. Leicester, meanwhile, have only kept 1 clean sheet in their past 10 games. So, George, what do you make out of this one? Who do you think is going to get the win?
Yeah, I still fancy Leicester, and that's a really interesting stat about the clean sheets and or lack thereof. But I think they'll have too much for Brighton. I think Brighton are good, and they're putting away their chances. But as you said, I think they've had some fluttering opponents and made them look a bit better than they are. So I think they'll revert to the mean a little bit more, and Leicester will get the win.
Good test, I think, for both teams at this point in the season, because I feel like both teams, Leicester could probably do with facing a team where they're probably expected to beat them, and Brighton, they're obviously having a pretty solid season, but they probably do need to face a more difficult team. All right, next up, West Ham, they're hosting Man United.
The floor is yours, Tommy. Go for it, mate.
All right. So, first of all, I did before we sort of get into any great detail, I did want to mention one interaction between David Moyes and one of the reporters. I think it was today. Reporter said to David Moyes, "Never a good time to play Man United, is there?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know if it's a good time to play West Ham at the moment." So, look, I do rate sort of trying to change that mentality a little bit, because West Ham are in good form. They got a win in the Europa League on Thursday morning as well, or Friday morning, sorry. So it's looking good, I guess, at this point. But this is another challenge, I guess, with Ronaldo rolling into London, and there's going to be just it's just going to be ridiculous, I guess, again with Ronaldo still only having his second game in the Premier League. So,
how long's he been in the UK for? Like 8 days.
Well, not even, because he then went to Switzerland with
right.
the Champions League. So he's probably only actually been here for 5 days or something. Wild. Sorry. But look, like I say, West Ham had a good result in the Europa League. Man United probably had a bit of a frustrating match midweek in the Champions League, or at least a frustrating result. So I think it does. I think it's good that both teams are going back to play a Premier League game this weekend, because I think they'll both be thinking, "Yep, can't wait to get more points on the board." But I think I do worry that I guess from specifically just a West Ham perspective, that I think there's still going to be that Ronaldo adrenaline sort of coursing through the Man United fans and players' veins. So I do fear, I guess, a little bit for this one. But look, West Ham are a strong side going forward and defensively, so this really could go any way, and I have no idea how to read this game. It's a really tricky one.
Do I dare mention the Europa League hangover? So will West Ham, be one of the many people in London who are hungover on a Sunday?
I actually don't think it's so much that's a problem. I think probably the biggest issue with this game is that Michail Antonio is out suspended after that red card last weekend. So if anything, I think that's probably the biggest player missing or something like that from this game. So
does Moyes change the system, or who plays up for? Do they even have another striker, Tommy? I don't know if they do. Yeah.
No. So last year, Bowen he'd played up front for, a little bit when Antonio was either injured or unavailable. So that is an option. Vlasic can play up front as well.
Yarmolenko.
Yeah. You can sense sort of by my trepidation that sort of these are all suboptimal options, right? So Look, I do think this is specifically without Antonio. I think even with Antonio would be a challenge, but without Antonio, I think this is going to be a real struggle for West Ham to get anything out of. So, look, it's a game where I think West Ham getting a point would be a fantastic outcome, but with Ronaldo on the pitch and he only needs one chance, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 2-1 or something like that to Man United, even a 3-2 or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if Man United have just got too much quality, particularly with Ronaldo on the pitch.
I just can't see West Ham scoring without Antonio. Like he breaks up the defence and he puts on a lot of pressure and he opens up spaces and stuff like that. So I think, I think Harry Maguire and Varane will be licking their lips at the thought of a Bowen or some auxiliary striker filling in.
Yeah, especially someone like Yarmolenko who's not real quick these days. So.
And dare I say it, Tommy, do I bring it up? Yes, I think I will. A certain player who used to play for West Ham, it may have scored 4 goals midweek playing for representing the club shirt you're wearing at the moment.
Yeah, I'm repping the Ajax kit for my boy Allaire, just doing business in the Champions League midweek, scoring 4 goals, just does what he wants, but just can never do it for West Ham. So, yeah. It would be great to have another striker right now, one who could have that sort of quality. But yeah, all right, man. But before we wrap up, one more game to preview, and that's your boys in blue. Chelsea are travelling to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. What do you make for this one, George? The floor's yours.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty exciting game. I think Son is out for Tottenham, which is, I think the way Nuno likes to play, like he's very, very important for them, and he has been really good before his injury. So I think that's a massive out for them, and I think they'll be trying to line up a bit more defensively, and maybe even go, to try and counter the Chelsea wing backs. But I think Chelsea, who haven't been playing that great, but Lukaku's been bailing them out, and he's just been in such good form that I think he's going to be problematic for the Spurs central defence, who I don't think are fully up to speed, or Romero I don't think is in yet, and that sort of thing. So I think just it's going to be one of those games where I think Chelsea would have struggled last year in terms of goals, but because of Lukaku and Havertz, he's actually been playing quite well as well off Lukaku. So I think those two guys have been in sync and working well together, and Kovacic has been absolutely killing it in midfield as well with Jorginho, with Kante out. So I think Chelsea just are into, just the players they've got at the moment versus Spurs 11 is they'll be a little bit too strong, and I think you'll see Lukaku scoring again because he's just too dominant with the ball at his feet or in the air.
Do you think Kane is going to do anything at all in this game, especially after his pretty piss poor performance last week against Palace?
He's going to do something, Tommy. He's going to sulk. That's what he's going to do.
Oh, geez. Actually, it's, at this rate, it's going to be interesting to see who has a poorer season, City or Kane. So keep an eye out for that one.
But I think I will say, I think Spurs will play, so they're hard to break down. So I think they'll try and neutralise the Chelsea width and the wing backs and stuff like that. So it could be a bit of a stalemate with maybe 1 goal in it. So that's my tip: 1-0 Chelsea.
1-0 Chelsea. All right. We'll stay tuned, and I guess we'll see tomorrow or tonight. We'll have a result out of that one. Next up, Champions League and Europa League, match day 1. So, what was it? Midweek this week, we had the first round of Champions League and Europa League games. We probably wouldn't normally mention Europa League, but considering our West Ham are in Europa League, we're probably going to be mentioning it every week until they're eliminated. But first up, George, your boys in blue, Chelsea, they hosted Zenit, and you were there.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I the Champions League
Champions League game or
this year, yeah.
Oh,
fair enough. First for a while, but
yep.
The it actually crept up on me, the Champions League coming back this last week, so it was a bit of a surprise. And then I got a ticket to the game, and I've got to tell you, like, night games are just a whole nother level, especially Champions League, because you do get some away supporters. There weren't as many. I don't know if people from Russia can actually get into the UK, but Usually there's quite a bigger away turnout. But yeah, the atmosphere is just electric, and night games, I think people just seem to have a little bit better atmosphere than the 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock kickoffs in the
Something
Premier League.
it's something we take for granted a little bit in Australia, because almost all of our games are night games. There's actually very few day games. So it's an interesting point that like people talk about like how special European nights are, and they don't come around very often. But it's a different. It's
absolutely rocking. And Chelsea. I actually thought Zenit were quite good. I won't go into not a huge amount happened, and Zenit had a couple of chances, and Mendy made a couple of big saves, and Rudiger was just immense at the back, and then Chelsea toiled. I think.
Even going forward, Rudiger was good too, wasn't he?
Yeah, at that moment. But and Chelsea tried to have a front three with Lukaku, Ziyech, and Mount, and it wasn't quite humming. So, and I don't think that'll be those three today. I think Lukaku and Havertz will play, and Mount will be there as well. But I think Ziyech didn't quite look up to speed, so he's still coming back from his injury. So I think he'll be out for the Spurs game. And Azpilicueta hit a nice ball, and Lukaku was never missing. So yeah, buried the header, and that was that. So good to get 3 points. And as I said, Chelsea, I don't think they're playing the best football they can play, but Lukaku's bailing them out. So
yeah, at this point of the season, all you need is results in games like the Champions League group stage, right? When you're playing against teams like Zenit, where that Chelsea would probably expect to beat every week. Anything else you want to mention on the Chelsea game before?
No, that's it.
We mentioned this already earlier in passing about Young Boys hosted Manchester United in the first round of the Champions League this week. Things got off to a good start for Cristiano Ronaldo, again scoring for the Reds. However, things got a little bit pear-shaped once Wan-Bissaka was sent off. And yeah, I think they took Sancho off. And then brought on, I think it was Dalot, who went in on the right-hand side, and they went to playing like a back five. And it was just a lot of fans were very critical of Ole and his response to the red card, and that he didn't keep going for it in this game when the Young Boys were probably still there for the taking. But sometimes it happens when you take your foot off the gas and you allow the other team an opportunity to get back into the game, and they took two chances, and it was just enough for Young Boys to get the win. But look, I guess Man United did have a big role to play in, I guess, allowing them back into the game, but then also the winner, obviously Lingard, still not necessarily sure. Still not sure if he's playing for Man United or if he's playing for a team in claret and blue, or what he's doing. But yeah, he had an absolute mare, and what was it? I think it was only 5 minutes to go. Played a back pass back to De Gea, and it's just absolutely nowhere near De Gea. And it's pretty much the Young Boy striker is then just slotted at home, and that was that. But again, pretty disappointing result for Manchester United, and particularly Cristiano Ronaldo. But if there's one thing I do want to say about this game, beyond what we've already said, is that this game really highlighted the limitations of what Cristiano Ronaldo can do for Manchester United. Playing with 10 men away from home. This is not the kind of game where Cristiano Ronaldo is going to be putting himself all over the pitch and tracking runners and fullbacks and stuff like that. This is not the game for him. Even though he's still immense, he's still going to probably score 20 league goals this year. When they probably needed to bring on another player to play up front, they maybe not really had the options that they needed. I don't think Rashford's still back from injury yet, and it was just it just highlighted, I guess, the limitations of Ronaldo in that team, and that he doesn't fit every situation, I guess, is the point.
Yeah, I agree with that, Tommy, and I think I was a little bit harsh when I called this my own goal, because of the Jesse Lingard didn't help them out with that assist, and I don't think it was a good vision. But I think Ronaldo's not the guy you want when you're down to 10 men and you need guys to do doggies up front. No, that's true. I think you're right with the there is question about the approach. Like, it's Man United. Like, do you need to go defensive against Young Boys? Like, it seems like maybe Ollie was overthinking a little bit, and it just they got caught out. But yeah,
you sense that Pep or another sort of more aggressive manager would have said, "Nah, we'll still batter these guys," and still would have put another 2 goals past them, and it would have finished like 3-0 or something like that if they had to sort of maintain their approach. So,
yeah. And just on the actual group itself as well, it's actually a pretty decent group. Like you've got Villarreal, who under Unai Emery are a pretty good team, pretty hard to beat. And you've got Atalanta, who are excellent going forward, and have got some Champions League experience now. So I think you'd expect Man U to get through, but the actual loss to Young Boys is a bit of a spanner in the works, especially if Atalanta and Villarreal beat Young Boys themselves. So it could be a group to watch in the end, because there's 2 pretty solid teams there, and Man U, who are I don't know how good they are, or whether they're average or good, but it's one to watch.
The only redeeming factor that there might be for Ole and Man United is that there's only one team from this group that can go into the Europa League. So if it's going to be Unai Emery, and he loves that competition, he's won it 4 times. So if he's going to be playing in it, then that means that Man United are either going to finish 4th or they're going to finish 2nd. So.
Is it fair to say, Tommy, that the team that qualifies for the Europa League in this group will win the Europa League? I think that's something.
Or they'll play West Ham in the final. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
All right, moving on though. Like we mentioned earlier, Manchester City, they hosted RB Leipzig, and bit of goal fest this one. Manchester City scoring 6, and Christopher Nkunku, he got a hat-trick for RB Leipzig, but it wasn't enough. Pretty disappointing result, I guess, for RB Leipzig, but pretty really solid performance. And it was one of those games, I think, for City where just kind of everything goes in. And City do, like, they're prone to these games where, like, they do create a lot of chances in almost every game. But, this was one where everything just seemed to work out, and it was the opposite of what happened yesterday against Southampton.
Yeah.
But anything else about this one?
No. Just, City roll on. And
fair enough. Up next, AC Milan, they travelled to Liverpool to play against or to reunite, playing against Liverpool in I guess a curious fixture, noting that these 2 teams have played each other twice before in the Champions League, but only ever in a final. So it was the first time that AC Milan had actually travelled to Anfield. So Liverpool did get a 3-2 win here, but George, I think you really liked this game, didn't you?
This was an absolute cracker, Tommy. This is why you watch Champions League, for these type of games. So Milan didn't have Ibrahimovic. Giroud was starting on the bench, and Liverpool absolutely tore the first 15 minutes to shreds. It was like they were playing a Premier League game, and they should have scored more, basically. So they got an early goal off Tomori, an own goal deflected sort of shot that sort of went in, and then they sort of, the game sort of plateaued a bit, and then before the end of the first half, Milan scored 2 goals. So that, despite being pretty dominated, Liverpool went into the sheds one goal down at half time. So it was absolutely crazy, and no one could believe it given the start they had. But it was that man again, Salah, coming out in the second half, scoring pretty quickly into the second half, and then Henderson with an absolute cracker to make it 3-2. So it was a really, really good game, great watch, and if anyone is bored, check out the highlights, because it was a pretty exciting game. And also looking at that group, it's such a good group as well, because you've got Atletico Madrid and Porto in there. So
this is the group of death, right?
Yeah, very good result for Liverpool. They needed the win at home, and really, really exciting game, and that's what Champions League's about.
It's the inverse of the Man United situation, whereby if you don't win the first game, you can put yourself in a bit of a tricky situation. So they'll be very relieved to have got 3 points up straight away.
Yeah.
But AC Milan, I think this is their first time back in the Champions League for what I think it was 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, so, I thought it was 8 years. So
disappointing for them. They didn't get any points straight up, and so, like I said already, they're sort of on the back foot already as far as goes for qualifying out of the group. So little bit dangerous areas for them. I'll be hoping they get some better results against Atleti and the other team escapes me.
Porto. So.
Thanks. Barcelona, their first Champions League game in the post-Messi era, was against Bayern. Of all teams that they could have played, it was against Bayern. Ended up going down 3-0 in this one. Just a very different Barcelona side played in this one compared to what we've been seeing for the last couple of years. Obviously, it wasn't that long ago that Barcelona were playing with Suarez, Messi and Neymar, sort of three of the five best strikers in the world. And now they're playing with Luke de Jong and Memphis Depay up front. So, yeah, pretty grim times, I guess, for Barcelona at the moment.
If I told you Luke de Jong would be starting a Champions League game for Barcelona last year, you would have banned me from the pod.
It's real Trump is president areas, right? Like,
yeah, that's a perfect analogy, I think. But yeah, that's where we are. And yeah, Bayern, you know, if you had a look at the Bayern goals, there were, you know, Gerard Piqué sliding on his ass, and it just looked like an absolute shambles. The one thing I will say about Bayern is Musiala, the young fella for Bayern, he's absolutely on fire. Like he's slotted in there, and he looks like a serious player. So
he's still only 18, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's keeping out some good guys. You know, he's keeping out your Nabries, and he's pushing. I was listening to a podcast, and they were saying he could be the Thomas Muller replacement. So. That in a few years' time, as in their number 10. So, and
Space
he looks
Investigator Mark II.
He looks very good. So, keep an eye out for him.
Very good. And like we were talking about the group of death before, and I think everyone just sort of takes it for granted that Barcelona and Bayern are gonna qualify from this group. But like we were just saying, Memphis Depay and Luke de Jong, like they're Barca strikers right now. So I think Benfica and Dinamo Kiev would be looking at this Barcelona team saying, I reckon we're a chance against these guys, and it's a little bit like that first season after Fergie left Man United, when all of a sudden this team didn't quite have that same glow about it that it used to.
They look a bit lost, yeah.
We're just there for the taking, right? So
I
almost wouldn't be surprised if we see Barcelona not qualify from the group stage. And I mean, to be honest, I do wonder if Barcelona will even qualify for the Champions League next year. But obviously, getting in a little bit early. But yeah,
Koeman's already under pressure, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, he was always under pressure because
he's never been under pressure. Yeah.
And look, he's almost got a free ticket, really, because like no one expects that he's going to do anything. So if he does something, it'll be like, oh, like he did something. It's going to be a surprise, right? So. Interesting times ahead, I guess.
Yeah.
And we mentioned Messi, the post Messi era at Barcelona, but the now Messi era at PSG is happening, and it didn't quite go to plan as they played Brugge, the Belgian side. Ended up finishing 1-1 in that one, and I think this game was the sort of the personification of that issue of how do you fit Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi into the same front three lineup. And we mentioned before about Neymar and Messi at Barcelona, but this is good 4 years on, and Mbappe doesn't want to do the doggies that Suarez maybe might have. So it's a huge challenge for Pochettino for how to fit those three players together and make them into a cohesive team. And Pochettino wants to play like pressing front foot.
Yeah, he needs Di Maria to play, and you can't have all four of them playing in the one game. And maybe they could have tried it against Bruges, but the other thing I'd say is Mbappe got injured in this game, so it might actually be a blessing for them, because that way they're gonna have to play two of the three, and then maybe a runner like Di Maria or someone willing to do a bit extra for the team. So yeah. As long as they rotate one of those guys being injured every week, then which is likely given it's Neymar. Messi is a bit more durable, but he's getting older. But yeah, so
Messi's going to want to play every game, right? Like he doesn't seem to get injured. Whereas Neymar, like he's
going to Brazil
6 weeks.
When's his sister's birthday?
Carnival, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Oh shit. All right, one final note on Europa League before we wrap up, though, and obviously my West Ham they played Dinamo Zagreb in Croatia. Curiously, I think everyone learnt a little bit about Croatian gambling laws this week as well. West Ham didn't have their Betway logo on their jerseys, so everyone went, well, "Why is that?" And turns out in Croatia you can't advertise foreign gambling companies. You can advertise domestic gambling.
Support
companies,
local businesses, Tommy. Got to support local businesses.
Exactly.
It's a missed opportunity for West Ham.
It just has like Betway, but it I was going to say, I thought it might have been in Cyrillic, but yeah, they use the Latin alphabet in Croatia. But anyway, of course, good story. With West Ham did get the 2-0 win in what was a very mature performance, was sort of the most commonly used descriptor for this one. Full debuts for Kurt Zuma and Nikola Vlasic as well, putting good performances. And West Ham did rotate a little bit, which was good, I guess, with that big game against Man United coming up this week as well. So good result, and I guess really fantastic outcome as far as sort of rotation and maybe some of the squad players getting some minutes too. One thing I did want to mention before we move on, though, and that's that West Ham, after winning this weekend, meant that they've won more European matches in 2021 than both Atletico Madrid and Barcelona. So you can take that one to the bank. And
yeah, that's a great start.
Yeah, well, thanks, Biggers, for pointing that one out to me. And I thought, yeah, that one's going to get a run on the pod. A couple other results of note. Leicester City, they played Napoli in a pretty tasty fixture. Leicester appeared to have it all wrapped up. They were up 2-0, but then Napoli scored 2 late goals to rescue a point, which would be pretty disheartening, I think, for Leicester. It seemed like they pretty much had that game wrapped up by about, I think it was the 70th or 75th minute or thereabouts. So, yeah, really disappointing for them.
This plays into the defensive weakness, the narrative you're building, Tommy.
Yeah, and I think Johnny Evans is finished as well. I think he's out injured now for a while, and it's looking like he may not return for a little while.
I thought you were saying he's done, Tommy. He's done. You were just saying Johnny Evans is completely finished.
No, I'm a Johnny Evans fan. I think he's been great for Leicester. It came out of nowhere a little bit. I think I only signed him for like $5 million or something.
So that actually would mean, Fofana's out, Evans is out, no Wes Morgan, so it's just Vestergaard and Sionchu, who, as a partnership, don't fill me with a huge amount of confidence. But yeah,
Sionchu has been massively out of form too. So
correct.
It is a bit nervy times, I think, for Leicester. They've been on such a high for the last 2 seasons, but now to sort of have a big step backwards, both defensively and sort of overall in performances, I think it'd be really disappointing for them. But yeah, that's football, right? 2 final results. First one, Midtjylland, Awan Mobile's team. Awan Mobile came off the bench, 1-1 draw against Ludogorets. And then finally, our Ange, his Celtic, they were up 2-0 at one point, and then conceded 4 goals consecutively to then go on to lose 4-3. So look, it might be all sort of beer and Skittles in Scotland for Ange, but yeah, things are a little bit different when you get into the green stripy teams in Europe, the likes of Betis and co. So plenty more interesting games coming up in the Europa League for Ange and other teams too. So
it's got to be a bit more probably pragmatic potentially in Europe, I think. But he doesn't like that word. People don't like that word, but you can't go up 2-0 and concede 4. That's pretty unique result. So yeah,
real Ange areas. Like, I'm just going to score more goals than you.
Yeah.
All right, but mate, that pretty much wraps things up. So look, George, great to have you on the pod once again, and thanks listeners for joining in. It's been great to have you along for the ride once again. But look, plenty more football on the horizon. Believe that there's meant to be a new A-League logo released this week. So that's going to be exciting, a bit of a refresh as far as the league's branding goes. And that'll
get the toilet seat in there, Tommy. That's my hope.
Shoehorn it in there somewhere.
Get it in there.
Fair enough. But all right, look, that's pretty much the show for this week. Until next week, enjoy the football.